Hello, everyone. So I'm trying something new today. I have YouTube Live going. Hey, y'all. And I have Instagram Live going. So we'll see what platform works best. The YouTube is really great because it saves the videos and they can be viewable at a later time for folks that want to pop in. So, hi, welcome, welcome, welcome. I'm your host, Kristen Escobar, and I am founder and project lead of Social Change Coalition. We're a grassroots global justice project fostering an agent of change mindset. And the focus of our work is melting together the beautiful arena of arts and storytelling with activism or being an ally within creating change. So I wanted to create this space specifically to offer opportunity for folks who are feeling challenged, fatigued with the work of social justice or activism. I would say that I am an activist. I feel that that term resonates with the entireness of my being, probably from the time that I don't know, I can't even remember. And so when we are working in the space of social justice, and when I say working, I don't mean that in the formal sense. I just mean that in the energy sense, how we use our time, how we invest it in things that are important to us, investing my time in offering opportunity for people's voices to be heard, for there to be spaces of equitability and liberation is really, really important to me. And so much of the time that I've invested in my adult life, and I would say as a young adult, um, young human being, uh, has really been focused on thinking about justice and thinking about equity from my own experiences with systems of oppression and marginalization. And in doing this work for so very long, I've come across so many wonderful people who, along with their personal stories of what have motivated them to enter into works around justice, social equity, is to also talk about some of the challenges and or feelings of fatigue. And so compassion fatigue is truly a experience. Um, and those who work in helping type fields can definitely understand and resonate with a feeling of just feeling tired. Feeling tired, not necessarily because your body is tired or exhausted, but because our energy and the emotional investment that we place in the engagement that we do can be very taxing on our overall health and well being. So, this space is meant to explore some of those things and offer opportunity for us to talk with one another, just get some community support, but do it in a virtual way. For those that can't be in a particular community space for whatever the reason might be, maybe a space doesn't exist where you live, or maybe you don't have the availability because of life circumstances. And so, this space is meant for that. So, for anyone that pops on to our stream, uh, can share a story and some of their thoughts and feelings around the topic of working as a social justice ally or change agent ally or activist, whatever term that you might use to describe the engagement with community that you do around equity and liberation. So, I want to share a little story about my own experiences in the work and link it with one of our calls of action this month and really thinking about how can we boost compassion in a way that allows us to think about equity across all living beings on this planet and creating more harmony in that way. And so today is March 11th, and it is Women's History Month. And so we want to really support that. But we want to support that with thinking about gender mm, concepts and gender norms in a varying degree of perspective. Um, because there are many individuals who really identify with feelings of femininity as being strong characteristics. Um, and gender norms often create constructs of grouping and exclusion when we don't include folks who don't fall within the realm of that. And so, not to deny the very valuable, important value of Women's History Month and validating and valuing all the wonderful contributions that women have made in our country and, of course, around the globe, also for us to think about that from the lens of gender, the construction of gender in general, and what that means. And when we want to think about equity in a more grander scale, thinking about contributions of characteristics of femininity really helps support this conversation so that it is more inclusive. For those who might not identify themselves as a female, but really utilize their feminine characteristics to make contributions, also deserve placement in recognition for contributions. So I share all that to give basis to some of my early experiences as a woman and how those particular experiences have created some challenges in my own experiences and also in the work of being an activist in social equity. So I am a teen mother. I say am because while my son is no longer in his young human life span, um, that will always be an indicator of my identity. And so, as a woman, very early on in my life, there were messages that I received around what a, a desirable female would look like, right? Aesthetically appealing beauty, um, norms around dress and makeup use, and things like that also fall in the realm of that. But becoming a mother was another element of my experience because then there were norms around not only just the gender of female that I would say I do resonate with as part of my identity and how I perceive myself in society, but separate from that, being a mother is also an element, and so those experiences really created a really strong foundation for me in feeling and thinking about what is justice, what is fair and unfair. And as a teen mother specifically, there was a lot of assumption that I wouldn't necessarily be a very good parent because, of course, I didn't have very much life skills. But even with the expectation that I wouldn't necessarily be the most optimal mother, in addition to that, was the norm that I had so much work to do and I had so much experiences left that I needed to really understand. And so there was a lot of exclusion from motherhood from other women who are already considered an adult and who knew everything they needed to know about parenting. And so, as a young female mother, some of my earliest challenges as being in the role of what I would consider being an activist, or being an advocate for myself and for other women uh, young humans who became parents at a younger age, were to really push people's assumptions around what that looks like and to share my story. Um, and that didn't necessarily happen when I was a teenager. It definitely happened when I got older, when I started really embodying the idea of being an activist. But those challenges for sure were there. And challenges in just really connecting with folks in a way that would allow them to understand the story that I felt was really, really important because placed in categories and stigmatized within those categories are where we find a need to talk about lack of equity, oppression, and discrimination, which is a component to thinking about global justice. Global justice is expansive of our individual experiences based on the way in which society interacts with us. And so creating norms around gender, what is to be a female and what is to be a male, is really at the core of some of the injustice that are experienced. And of course, had I been a male, my experience, even if I was also still a teen parent, would have been very unique and very different because the expectations based on what males should be doing versus what females should be doing are very different. And all of those things create a foundation for our unique story and the way in which we have taken on the role of an activist for ourselves or for others in our life. So that's just one story that we could use engage in this conversation and think a little bit about some of our personal experiences and challenges. Um, so I'm not sure if anybody who is logging in might be interested in sharing a little bit about their experiences. But this space is really meant to do that, is meant for us to come together to share some of our thoughts or feelings and be interested in thinking about together how we can combat these challenges and the possible fatigue that we might encounter. Um, for me, without having any community support for so long, the fatigue compounded itself. So I didn't have an outlet to express the frustrations that I was having as a parent and as a person who really felt very strongly to engage in the world of justice and creating equity for all living beings on this planet. And so not having support systems really was a avenue of additional challenge for me because I didn't have a break or a capacity to reflect or debrief the amount of energy that is being expelled. And so when we want others to hear our story, we have to be willing to hear the stories of others, of course, and begin to think about where my story fits in there and how do we build community with the diversities that we each bring to the table. And that can be challenging, of course, at times, and it exerts energy. So, having a means to refuel yourself is really crucial in ensuring that fatigue does not set in. And so thinking about that is unique. And creating opportunities for ourselves to have the contributions of others and the support of others truly can help us in addressing some of the elements that we might encounter in doing this particular type of work or investment of ourself in the world around us. I wanted to hop on today and give us a little bit of motivation. It doesn't look like anybody has any comments or questions. So I want to end our session today with just thinking a little bit about how could we be motivated as individuals who identify with possessing feminine energy, the energy of femininity. One would be for us to think a little bit about what are all the qualities of femininity do we feel really give us amazing skills of strength? What are those? Maybe we're going to record ourselves or we're going to take some notes or do some deep reflection so that those things stay with us. We can revisit that feeling or terms later. Once you do that, put it to the side and think about what are some characteristics and strengths that you possess that are considered masculine. What are those? Regardless of your gender expression, what are those? And use those as a means to go and access when you might feeling challenged or overwhelmed. And so this month, the call to action would be thinking a little bit about gender norms. How can we create more compassion for those around us and ourselves? Most importantly, firstly, what are the characteristics and skills that you might have that are feminine, honoring Women's History Month this month? And also, what are some of the characteristics that are masculine? And what are some of those skills together that might help to address a challenge that you might be experiencing? And maybe the challenge is related to gender. Again, honoring Women's History Month and our particular focus this month within Social Change Coalition's actions with community. So, our call to action is for you to think about feminine and masculine and what do gender norms mean for you, and how can we promote more inclusion, more equity, and justice by thinking and taking some time to reflect this month. So that is our call to action for you this month. I hope that this video has provided you some opportunities to reflect. Join me next time, March 25th at 6 p.m., where we'll continue this conversation in honor of Women's History Month, thinking about feminine energy. What are some of the challenges that we encounter, and how together we can think a little bit about compassion fatigue and giving us some opportunity to strengthen our skills, fill up our cup so that we can continue to forge forward with vigor and lots of compassion and love for ourselves within our heart. Thank you for joining me. Until next time.